You're running a successful consulting business, but something's not right. You're working more hours, but not seeing the proportional growth. Every decision still comes through you. Every proposal needs your touch. You know there's a better way. You're not just sure what it is. You're listening to the Paul Higgins podcast. I'm Paul, and I help consultants build businesses that don't require them to be at the center of everything. I spent 18 years at Coca-Cola, then built and sold my own consulting business. Along the way, I learned that working harder isn't the answer. Building better systems is. Each week, I sit down with consultants who's cracked the code on scalable growth and experts who support them. Real conversations and how they broke through the bottleneck and built businesses that work without them. Let's dive in. Too many AI and tech consultants are stuck in the LLM hamster wheel, asking ChatGPT basic questions, getting hallucinated responses, and wondering why AI productivity isn't living up to the hype. Meanwhile, they're missing the strategic approaches that could actually transform both their internal operations and their client delivery. Hello, I'm Paul, and welcome to my podcast, episode number 639. In this episode, I talk to Garima Agrawal from Human Con AI, so that's human, and then CO in AI Consulting. You will learn from Garima how to eliminate AI hallucinations using layered prompting techniques that work with any LLM, not just the fancy enterprise tools, which specific LLMs to use for different tasks, ChatGPT for analysis, Claude for coding, Gemini for technical research. But she goes into more detail than that, and the practical difference between interactive AI and true agentic AI, which is a key buzzword at the moment, plus how to build goal-driven systems that take actions without constant oversight. Garima holds a PhD in artificial intelligence. She took 5 years to get this through Arizona State University, and she serves as the head of AI at Minerva, so MINERVACQ. After 15 years in the industry, she returned to complete her PhD, like I said, at age 40, working with top AI researchers to understand how large language models actually work under the hood. Now over to Garima, episode 639. Great to have you here, Garima.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, well, I know we met through LinkedIn, and I think today the real reason I wanted to bring you on is you can help us as we go along our AI journey, both us as consultants, but also us as people that then provide advice to end clients. But why don't we kick off with who your ideal client is and what problems you love to solve for them?
So I would say my ideal clients are twofold. One is the startups who are trying to implement AI and trying to figure out how they can use AI in a safe manner where there's no hallucination or they can trust the solution. So I come in picture during the stages of implementation and design of AI strategy, and how we can reduce the hallucination, what best we can do, how we can make AI as an agentic AI, make it goal-driven, where AI can learn how to take decisions and then work in conjunction with what is required for the product and for the domain. And second is, I would say, the investors. So people who are looking into investing into AI, they are curious about that. They don't even know that which startups or ventures will be a useful or good investment for them. So I can help them I do guide them, and that's where they can make most bucks out of, their investments.
I know when I was back in corporate at Coca-Cola, we used to have a role where there was IT and then there was a person that sat between IT and the business unit that helped translate it from what the business wanted and then translated that to IT and vice versa. So to me, in a way, you're sitting between your PhD and you really understand AI, and then you're helping, whether it's the investor or the startup, better understand it. Is that analogy close to what you often do?
It is kind of closer, I would say. So for the development team, I would, use the term instead of IT because IT is also the admin and the
Yes.
networking and all of that. So I would use the term development team.
Yes.
When the business requirement or a new product development happens, then the development team is kind of all over the place trying to figure out that how we start. And those people, especially if they do not have much experience with AI, they do not know where to get started, how to use AI, and if we bring in knowledge grabs or do we do RAG or how it's going to work, which model should I work, which LLMs, all of these kind of things, right? And everything has come just new. I was just fortunate to be able to do, my PhD after 15 years of industry experience. I
Yes.
decided to leave my job, come into do PhD to move to the United States, and I have been very fortunate to work with the best, like, Professor Huan Liu, who's among 20 top computer scientists of the world. He was my mentor and professor, Professor Dimitri Bartiskas, one of the top reinforcement learning guys. So I've learned from the best, and then, I've been able to be in the space when with a lot of experience. So I understand how industry works, and I have been with AI, like my master's was in neural network, when were doing back propagation back those days. And I have worked in support vector machines when we were doing intent tagging manually. So I have a long journey where I've seen AI right from 2001 to 2025. And it's been always happened that, I was in school at the right time, probably. After, at the age of 40, I decided to do my PhD, and this was the right time when LLMs were just coming in, and I got to do a lot of research on how LLMs work. So when we are in the industry, you see from the application point of view, but I understand it from the technically, how theoretically it's working. I've done a lot of work on applications and research in LLMs, how we can make it domains aware, how we can change the LLMs by inducing the knowledge. It could be knowledge graph, it could be RAGs, and how to do effective RAGs. So all of that helps me visualize and understand that, where what, you can change.
Yeah,
Uh,
and the simple analogy I'll use because I'm a Formula One nut, so I enjoy watching Formula One. It's like you've worked for a Formula One team, and now you're helping us to better drive a car, right?
yeah.
So I think that's the analogy I like to use. Whereas a lot of people come on and
Yeah,
they share
I love
their
that. Yeah,
AI experience because they've learnt it at through watching YouTube or TikTok or whatever. But
sure.
you've been deep in that world and now you're coming back to help us. So that's the analogy I like to draw. And I think if anyone
Yeah.
wants to find out more about, if you're a startup listening or you're an investor and you want to find out more, I think reach out to Garima through a LinkedIn profile that we'll have in the show notes. But now what I'd like to do is help us drive the car better, which is for most of us is LLMs, and probably the majority of the LLM that we drive on our daily drive is ChatGPT. I know ChatGPT, one of the key issues people have is hallucinations, right? What's your view on hallucinations with ChatGPT? And then what are some of the ways that we can help it hallucinate less for us?
Sure. I'm glad you asked this question. And it is no brainer that all of us are using ChatGPT. Even if we may talk, we may crib about it, we may not talk good things about it. Nobody likes to be associated with ChatGPT, but we all are using it. And to be very honest, but I want to say ChatGPT has a lot of, it can help you a lot, improve your productivity and boost efficiency and all of those kind of things. It has hallucination. All know it, and there have been tons of paper research to show that. But I think what we can do is to use it in a right way where we do not end up into a hallucination, or at least we are able to find out that where it is hallucinating. My way of using ChatGPT or any LLM is not just start straight up with my problem, because this is a general AI. Now we have to appreciate, and I always talk about this, that we have to appreciate there is a AI which is able to understand and talk to us in a natural language.
Yes.
This was the biggest bottleneck of the industry so far. So this is a big innovation we've got. We just need to be very mindful and know how to use it. If you want to create some content or you want to analyze a problem. Now, this one AI don't know anything about your problem. It's a general purpose AI which is able to gather some thoughts and bring to you. Now, it depends. It's your responsibility that how you are putting up your problem there. So I take it as my thinking partner, not totally rely on it to give me all the solutions, but I have to give it enough context, and I call it as layered prompting, which is also one of the widely used terms in the industry today. Go small, go with a small prompt. First start with, try to figure out that ChatGPT knows how much it knows about a particular domain, about an area. So if we are talking about, like, say, a small business trying to find a niche area where, they can, or go to market strategy or anything, right? So first understand what ChatGPT knows about it. Now, if you start with a blanket question, it will give you tons of information. But now you have to narrow it down. You know that it knows something about it, but you have to narrow it down and bring it to your context. Start explaining, hey, I have this business. I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. Now I want to create this kind of a niche market. I want to understand go to market strategy. Now I am targeting this particular region. So, for US and Australia, the GTM will vary.
Yes.
Now, my target clients are, I'm focusing on this particular sector. My product is this. So it starts thinking with you and then goes step by step, and it's ask it to, do you understand my problem, or just explain me what do you understand? So it gives you a bunch of information. Now, from that information, start telling it, do you think that we should do, we should take this approach? It gives you 5 approaches. Then you think, then, so you have to work with it. It's
Yes.
not that, you just think or you imagine that ChatGPT can give you everything and then you can take it out and put it in into your product or your PowerPoint or your content. So if you work with it as a thinking partner, it can help you shape your own thoughts.
Yes.
Because right now, I don't have to keep focus on creating, structuring the content. I don't have to focus on delivering a material, shortening it, making it concise, or looking at the language. So at least somebody is helping you out there.
Yes.
But do the thinking job, you
Yes,
know?
yes. And what's the mix of how much context you add through documents, etc., versus how much you're doing verbal? Like, is there any best practice on getting that mix right? For example, what I do a lot of is if I'm going to talk about a particular topic, like let's say it's a client problem that I'm helping with, I'll often upload the transcripts from the
Right.
calls to
Yes.
give it better context. Am I better off doing that, or am I better off just verbalizing what the context is? I'd love to get your perspective on those, the
I'm
balance of
glad
those.
you asked this because I was about to touch upon next upon this, because it's very important that you are able to give it some kind of reference material, but
Yes.
it's a mix of how much and how much you go for. I cannot upload tons of material there and ask it to work on it, but it is always good to give it a flavor of a sample. If
Gotcha.
it is a, say, a transcript of a couple minutes of conversation, that is okay if it's able to take it. Like, it depends on what version you are using and if it's subscription based and blah, blah, and
Yes.
upon your limits.
Yes.
But it is always good to give it in bites, let it chew in bites. If we give too much information at one time, that's where the hallucination starts. Once any model hallucinates, it's a snowball effect. So there have been a lot of research papers on it. It's a snowball effect. Once it goes in a wrong direction, it keeps going. So that's best is to stop it there, restart. That means you have screwed it up and it's not gonna go in the right direction. One good way of giving the documents is to ask it to analyze, give it some context, ask it to analyze that What are the patterns do you see?
Yes.
What are the, that is something very important to be able to use AI for understanding the patterns, what are in the documentation or different kind of documentation. So you can correlate all of that and bring that synthesis out to be able to create a good analysis.
Got you, got you. And once again, I go down rabbit holes each night on, my two favorites are TikTok and YouTube on learning more and more about AI. And sometimes I'll come across JSON prompting, and they say that, you're better off doing JSON prompting. So take your natural language, put it into a JSON prompt,
Mhm.
and then use the JSON prompt to get better results. What's your view on that?
So, yeah, there's a lot of things been talked about. People say do a JSON prompting, but it actually works better when you are sending it as an API. When you are
Gotcha.
using it as an application and using the API of a LLM, then if you pass everything in a JSON, it is able to consume it better. Why? Because the LLM is able to parse JSON, CSV, TXT, those kind of documents rather than PDFs. Excel, a big no-no. Word document is okay. But those are the documents, but all the prompting, if it is done through a JSON, is fine. But if you're using a UI, I mean, it doesn't matter. Then
Yeah.
it's all totally fine. Yeah.
Gotcha.
You don't
And,
have to beat yourself and just write the JSON. It just doesn't matter for the
yeah.
model.
And I'll often use when I'm uploading documents,
I
I'll
want to ask, yeah, I want to add one more thing.
sure.
Why people say JSON? Because you are able to create different fields and add tags. So because your natural language, when we say it, our thoughts are all over the place. We're
Yes.
not able to structure it. So sometimes people say go for JSON. When you have too many things, then you are able to create tags. And that kind of shows the model that, okay, this is what people are talking about. These are different fields and yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then as far as those uploaded documents, I know that sometimes I'll try to have a rich text, or I'll try to have, I forget what's the other acronym, the M, it starts with M, the yeah, when you're sort of stripping out all of the markdown, a markdown
Yeah, yeah.
versus a Google.
Markdown. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. HTML markdown.
Is it
Yeah.
better to be as I suppose as stripped back as possible, or does it matter less the way that the LLM interprets the information?
I think it is fine when you are giving it as an attachment in the UI. It do not matter much. The problem is when we use the API, it goes token wise, and the text need to be parsed, embedded, and then sent. So when we are doing it on the UI, it's all done by the UI itself. It's embedded there. So it takes care of the parsing, embedding, and all, tokenization, all of that. But when we are using a API LLM call, then it's better to take care of all these nuances.
Gotcha, gotcha. And for you, or the other thing is, and I'm sort of really asking you the questions that my clients often ask, or we'll ask
Sure.
in our
Yeah,
group calls every
yeah,
week. Someone will ask this, and not well, none of us have got PhDs like you have in this topic. So the other thing is, how you talked about starting small, etc. As far as like, let's say marketing, most of us are creating content. Is it best to have one marketing project, or say a custom GDP in ChatGDP, or is it better to break that down into newsletter versus LinkedIn posts? Like, what's your view? Is it better to have an aggregated, or is it better to break them down into each of the specific components?
Yeah, so that's another good question. I would say if it depends on your use case always, right? I would say if it is multiple things you want to get out of the same problem, then I would just start with a project.
Okay. Yes.
And then you can, the project in ChatGPT Plus allows you to keep your documents and you want to explain your problem. So my intent here is to communicate that, convey that, the ChatGPT or any LLM, it could be Claude or anything, it should be able to understand your problem first.
Yes.
Then it will be able to give you the right kind of solution. So first, if it is a marketing project, and I might have different artifacts which I'm deriving out of it, but I should be able to explain my bigger picture to the model. And that I can do through the projects. So I go on analyzing, I go like, this is how my marketing strategy works. This is my documents results. Can you go analyze it? Can you create some content out of it? Now go hand in hand with the model to be able to create all that content. Just don't trust it like blindly, or you can give suggestions
Yes,
that,
yes.
hey, I think this is not a right approach. You can do this, and so on. And then it keeps giving you other content. And then you say, okay, I like this. Now, can you create a LinkedIn post based on that? Now, it's very important to tell it if it's a LinkedIn post or a Twitter post, and you would see the difference that it used the right hashtags and, the
Yeah.
formatting and all of that, which saves your work, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and look, well, the approach I take at the moment is I have them broken up, and then I have instructions and examples in the instructions piece, and then knowledge examples, and then it creates it.
Sure.
And what I love is I call it red pen, black pen. Black pen is when I used to sit down every Monday and type out all the content myself. Now
Right.
my team runs all of my calls through the LLM that then produces the content, and then I red pen it. I make sure that it's
Okay.
me at
You're
the end
right.
of it. We've talked predominantly about ChatGPT, but are there different LLMs that you use or recommend for different purposes?
Yes, and before we get into it, I want to highlight one of the very good points you mentioned, and I missed it, that, giving the examples. So we call it zero shot, few shot, and multi-shot prompting. In short, what it means is that sometimes if your domain or your task is very specific, you are not able to give it through the instructions, or you want it to show that, this is a certain template I want to follow, then
Yes.
it is good to give those examples, right? And then you can have multiple examples. So zero shot is when you're not going by plain instructions, but giving examples is like few shot. And yeah, to the next question, which is on different type of LLMs. So with my experience, I think ChatGPT is very good. And this depends on how the model's been trained, on
Yes.
what kind of content it's been trained. So I think ChatGPT is very good for analysis of multiple different kind of topics, where it can go broad and it almost knows about everything. At least it pretends to know about
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
But what I have seen, that you can actually bring it to a certain direction, because it's been trained on huge amount of information. It don't know, like, a lot of things have similar kind of meanings, and they're ambiguous. So you have to bring it to your steer the direction of thinking for the model, as in parameterizing it towards the right direction. So ChatGPT is mostly when you want to use natural language. By natural language, I mean I want to reduce the content, I want to shorten it, I want to summarize, reparaphrasing, analyze, content delivery. All of that is better with ChatGPT. But if you want to do some kind of a coding task or more of a scientific task, I would go for a Claude AI,
Yes.
because I think Claude anthropic models are best in that. And I prefer using my best model to go to is Claude Sonnet 3.5.
Yes.
And hands down, I think the footprint of the model is so good that there is very less amount of hallucination. But it works best with the coding task, and because I think that's how the model's been trained, more on the coding side, right? Now, with DeepSeek, I have some of reservations. Of course, the model is faster, but I think if you have too much English or too much content going on, the model kind of shakes.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It don't give you the right information. It does well for simple tasks, but when it's too many things, then no. Not even for coding. If it's a complex coding, um, no. Even for Claude, it depends. Like, you have to really work with the model.
Yes.
And even when it's coding, that you have to think in this direction. I want to solve this problem in a certain way. So all of that, when you work with AI, then it gives you the right results.
Yeah, great. Well, one of my things that I'm really enjoy testing at the moment is using Claude to help me then go into a platform, whether it's Bolt or Lovable, and create, landing pages or mini
Sure.
apps
Right.
where you might have a lead magnet that is static, whether it's a PDF, etc. You can
Yes.
use Claude to help you then turn
Right.
that into something that's a lot more user
Yeah. Yeah,
friendly,
I
which,
used it for creating a dashboard and did a fantastic job,
yes,
Yeah, because we have to go back and see that how the model was trained and what was the content. So Claude is very technical. And if I want and Gemini again is another model where if you want to get more information about like how things are done, how they're technically solved, then I go for Gemini. Bunch of information which you can, I wouldn't say 100%, but kind of like, you go by it that, okay, it's giving you the right information about the tools, how, the Python libraries, all of that kind of bunch of information just gives all that correct. Why? Because Google has all that, right? It trained
yeah.
it on.
Yeah, yeah. And is there any, like, to do deep research? Let's say we're doing deep research on a market you might want to enter, or something like that. Is there any particular LLM that you prefer to do the deep research?
So it depends on the topics. I would say if it is for research, like my kind of research, then I wouldn't go for ChatGPT because it gives the citations which are wrong, which
Yes,
everyone knows. So you never
yes,
use you let it search web, but never use the citations, or it creates things on its own. So
yes,
Perplexity is my go-to, if you
yes,
want to find the research papers or the references and things like that, then it's
yes.
Perplexity. But it depends on if it's a research on a product or a marketing strategy and things like that, then you can use ChatGPT, but I would rather use Gemini.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I know that the next sort of step from LLM is sort of then agentic behavior. I know that we won't go down the relevance sort of deep mine on this podcast. There's Manus, there's GemSpark, there's the ones
Mhm.
that are, doing more actions than just
Sure.
doing the
Yes.
research. Have you got
Yes.
any particular tool that you use in that regard?
So I don't use any tools for agentic AI, but we are building our own agentic AI platform at Minerva. So basically, agentic AI is a buzzword which has been misled and
Yes.
confused by many people. They don't understand what is agentic AI. So I'll take a moment to explain that. Basically, what's happening in agentic AI, it's a bunch of LLMs, right? Your agentic AI means that, if I'm talking to AI and getting this work done from ChatGPT, that's not agentic AI.
No,
It's an interactive AI, right?
correct.
So it's a static AI which is helping me. But agentic AI means that, there is an AI which is goal driven. It knows these are the tasks. It can act at a certain point, able to take decision, able to get the context from the environment that something has changed. I need
Yes.
an action, right?
Yes.
So it knows, okay, that Paul has the schedule, and then, if he has come to this point, there is a call at this point. So the AI takes an action, sends a reminder to Paul, or, creates that content, keep it ready, a profile of a person who you are going to interview, things like that.
Yes.
This is agentic AI behavior,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So if you are able to use your LLMs, and that we are do it through API at Minerva, that we are able to create LLMs, and at Minerva we are handling customer service contact center calls, and we're making that experience seamless for the agent who's taking the call. So he knows that the customer is calling, and from the conversation at real time we are able to take the context, and the AI takes the decision to create a question and understand that customer is asking some question. Let me go back, do the rag, get the answer for the agent, keep it ready
Yes.
before he has to answer, right?
Yes.
Also create a summary of the conversation, that what's going on, maybe after every minute or every 50 seconds, 40 seconds, give a summary to the agent so he gets a snapshot of, oh, what has been talked about,
Yes.
right? Now agent is looking for some process. So the agentic AI, another thread, of course, it's not the same AI, but there are multiple threads working there and can, okay, looks like, the intent has changed. The conversation is going in this other direction. Agent may need this help. So, and all of that's been engineered and designed, right? Like it's not that AI is taking action, but we have curated it in that way. So that's basically agentic AI behavior.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. And, I could ask you so many more questions. I think the last one is, what are some things that you're using AI to run your consultancy business on that you think that we may not be doing ourselves as consultants?
So I think I pretty much talked about everything, and I wanted to share all what I'm doing because see I'm wearing multiple hats here because I'm doing a full-time head of AI at Minerva, and then I'm also doing consulting with at HumaCon, and I'm a consultant in ASU, Arizona State, and working there as well. So all of this I'm able to manage, just because I'm able to efficiently use AI. And
Yes,
I have figured that, how to use and when to use and which AI to use,
yes, yes,
right? So
yes,
I think just coming out of the fear of that AI that is going to give me wrong or not getting started on it or totally relying on AI. These are the two bottlenecks I see mostly,
yes,
and exploring AI, but have your own thinking going on. You have to be very, very mindful. And I have a paper on this, Mindful Rag, where I illustrate on what could be the failure points of AI and how I had figured that by analyzing the error logs through the AI. I use another LLM to analyze what is going wrong. And then I figure out that, okay, what is the behavior of LLM where it's not getting the question right. So you have to make the LLM understand the intent of your question. And if it fails to get the intent, then it will never give you the right answer,
yeah,
right?
brilliant. And look, I suppose I'm certainly old enough where I was lucky when mobile phones came in. When we Microsoft, introduced Excel and Word, and
Yeah.
sort of all through that phase. But
Right.
the one thing that I find most challenging at the moment is just the pace of releasing. And if it, like, at least when there was Microsoft, right? Like
Yes.
you
Yeah.
found new ways to use Excel, but it was just Excel. Whereas now I could list 50 tools that I've got on my
Right.
I've got a
Yeah.
discover list. So the pace of change in AI is incredible. But I really appreciate you coming on and sort of talking about, like I said, from an F1 team perspective back to us who are driving our
Yeah.
cars. What we're going to do is pause for a moment, thank our sponsors,
Sure.
and then we'll go into the rapid fire. Brilliant execution, terrible strategy. You can solve any client problem, but you're stuck in the same revenue patterns, same deal sizes, same time for money trap. I'm Paul, and I built and sold a 7-figure consulting business, but here's what I've learned mentoring other consultants. The real breakthroughs happen when you combine my experience with live problem solving of people going through exactly what you're facing now. In my group program, Steve works through his VA delegation challenge with Jed. Jed shares what's actually working. Andrew tests his pricing strategy with Casey, and Casey demonstrates his client onboarding system. Everyone's figuring it out together with my guidance based on what I learned the hard way. It's not theory, it's real-time strategic thinking with consultants in the trenches plus someone who's already made the journey. Stop grinding alone. Start thinking strategically. Go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/WWM. That's paulhigginsmentoring.com/WWM. Are you ready now for the rapid fire?
Sure. I'm a little scared too, because you mentioned age. So I'm just want to bring in the fact that I started my PhD at 40, and it was very challenging. it felt like, studying with those 25 years old and students and all that. So it was hard, but age is just a number. I would say
Oh,
that,
spot on.
you can conquer anything if you set your mind on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great,
for
great.
sure.
And I know my children often say to me, they're 24 and 21, they say, Dad, act your age. Like, you're not meant to know as much about AI at 54
Yeah.
than you do, right? Like, you're not meant to be like you show my friends AI and technology and they're all blown away. Like, you're not meant to be that
Yeah.
far advanced. So yeah, it's never too late.
That's the time when you use AI because that makes your life easier.
Yeah,
You
spot
don't
on.
have to do all the work.
Yeah, spot on. I
Yeah.
do wish I had had it when I was 25. But anyway,
Yes.
what's an AI particular tool that you're using at the moment that we haven't spoke about that really got your attention? Is there anything that we haven't mentioned?
I think the Claude Sonnet 3.5 I use extensively,
Yes.
and ChatGPT for analysis, and Gemini for technical details. But yeah, nothing I've hidden.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant. The next one is what's been for you in your own consultancy business? What's been the best go-to-market strategy for you at the moment? What's working best to get new clients?
So what works best for me is LinkedIn post
Hmm.
and my research articles. So being a niche in the and the expert in the field, because how I started my company, we didn't talk about it, but because people found me through my research papers
Yes.
and they contacted, and that's what made me think that, okay, why don't I start a consulting business along with my other work? And I think Humacon has made quite a good progress, and we
Yes.
have a lot of clients. And I'm in expert network of correlation, Aruta Consulting, a lot of good work we are doing. But what is important is to carve that niche,
Yes.
to be in that space. And sorry, this was a one line, but
No, that's all right. That's all right. Where do you go to learn more about to grow your own consulting business?
I'm very keen on, and I've started that, but keen on tapping the investor space
Yes.
because I feel like that is the area where those people, the hedge fundings and the angel funders, they are heavily trying to figure out how to use AI. One is
Yes.
for risk analysis, and second for their own productivity, and third for the investment to find that where they should. Invest,
Yeah.
what will be a good AI venture to invest. Definitely.
Yeah.
Hang on, we are here.
Brilliant. And I know you've been in your own business now for 8 months. What do you know now that you wish you had known?
I was in school 8 months back, and I never thought I would be able to start that early. And I thought this is like 10 years down the line that I would become a consultant. But what I realized that, being coming from LM research, I already know a lot. And I figured very early that there is a gap in the market right now.
Yes.
Then, because when you do your PhD in AI, you think that everyone knows all this. I'm glad I figured it out that there's this current space where I can fill the gap. And it's also I want to give back to the community because I feel like there are a lot of people who have come together to help me when I did my PhD at a 40 starting, and then all the motivation, encouragement. My professor any didn't take any money from the project. He can support me for my PhD for 5 years. I think I have a lot to give back to the community as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
So,
Well, Garima, it's been fantastic having you on. Reminder, this is episode 639, and your website, Human Con AI Consulting, will be in the show notes, and so will be
sure.
your LinkedIn profile. But thanks for coming on and sharing
Great.
your amazing journey of,
Yes.
doing your PhD at 40, but also just how we can improve to make AI a more essential part of our lives as we help others with it. So thanks for coming on and sharing that today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Paul. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
The key takeaway here is that AI isn't about finding the perfect tool. It's about understanding how to build with those models as thinking partners. Garima's layered prompting approach and her insights on when to use which LLM can immediately improve your AI productivity. Reach out to Garima on LinkedIn and thank her and ask her questions about implementing knowledge-aware AI in your consultancy practice. You can also visit Human Con AI Consulting to learn more about her hallucination reduction techniques and agentic AI development. You can watch this episode on the Paul Higgins Mentoring channel on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And please reach out to me. It was great this week to meet someone that has been a long-time listener, but I had no idea. So if you are, which obviously you are, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. What stood out to you from today's conversations? Look, building a consulting practice that doesn't resolve around you isn't easy, but it's possible. The consultants and the experts I interview have proven that. Every week I share insights from those conversations, practical strategies from people who've actually done it or help others do it. If you want to learn more from this experience, get my newsletter at paulhigginsmentoring.com/newsletter. Just practical stuff from consultants who's figured it all out. And if this was helpful, share it with another consultant. We're all trying to crack the same code. Thanks for listening.